Okay, imagine trying to build something with Legos, but you can't quite see if the bricks are clicking together perfectly. Now, what if I told you there's a new way to see those connections, but on a scale so small it's almost impossible to imagine? Today, we're diving into a technique that is, for all intents and purposes, an atomic ruler. So, let's just start with a question that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, right? How in the world do you measure an imperfection that's smaller than a single atom? I mean, it sounds completely impossible. But it turns out, not only can we do it, it's actually crucial for the future of, well, pretty much all our technology. And that really gets us to the heart of what you could call the atomic ruler problem. Why would anybody on Earth need a level of precision that is this ridiculously fine? Well, the answer is pretty incredible. You see, everything from how fast our computers run to how strong new materials are depends on this perfect repeating grid of atoms. It's called a crystal lattice. And even the tiniest little hiccup, a slight stretch here, a tiny squeeze there, can change everything about how that material behaves. So knowing exactly where those little flaws are, that's the key. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract science experiment. We're talking about very real-world stuff, like building the next generation of computer chips that are layered on top of each other, or designing these super powerful nanoparticles for things like medicine and clean energy. It's about understanding, at the most basic level, why things bend or break. You know, if we want to build better things, we first have to see them better. So how do you see something that small? Well, a team of scientists developed this really brilliant digital toolkit. It takes an image from a super powerful microscope and, like magic, turns it into a detailed map of atomic stress. Let's walk through how they do it. It's basically a four-step process. First, you get a super high-res picture of the atoms. Simple enough. Second, you run that image through a mathematical process, a fast Fourier transform, that turns the visual pattern into what's called a frequency map. You can think of it like taking a piece of music and breaking it down into all its individual notes. Third, they just pick one of those repeating patterns, one note, to act as their perfect reference point. And finally, and this is the really clever part, they reverse the whole process, using just that one perfect note to build a brand new image, the strain map. So what even is a strain map? Honestly, the best analogy is a weather map. Seriously. But instead of showing you areas of high and low atmospheric pressure, it shows you where the atoms are being ever so slightly squeezed together or pulled apart. It makes the invisible forces happening inside a material visible. Now, okay, when you've got a revolutionary new tool, what's the first thing you do? You don't just throw it at a real-world problem. You have to test it, right? Make sure it actually works. So the researchers started with a perfect computer-generated world, an atomic lattice where they put the flaws in themselves. And this slide just shows it perfectly. On the left, that's your input. It's a flawless, computer-made grid of atoms, except for two little defects they added on purpose. And that arrow, that just tells the program which repeating pattern to focus on. Now, look at the right. That's the output. It's this beautiful, clean 3D graph that absolutely nails the exact location and size of both of those flaws. It worked. And the result? The error in the measurement was less than 1%. I mean, on a perfect digital sample, the tool was basically perfect. But here's the thing. The real world is never that clean. Which brings us to the ultimate test. Okay, the toolkit can handle a perfect simulation. But what happens when you feed it the noisy, chaotic data from a real material sample from a real microscope? And here you can really see the difference. This is an actual image from what's called a transmission electron microscope. It's messy. It's grainy, it's a bit blurry. And that perfect atomic grid we saw before is buried under a ton of real-world static and noise. This is the big challenge. Can the algorithm find the beautiful signal hidden in all that noise? The answer is absolutely yes. Just look at this. The algorithm just slices right through all that static and pulls out these incredible, clear 3D plots. It's showing the precise strain in different parts of the material. It found the hidden tension, the secret story that the atoms were telling. So what did it actually find in all that mess? It measured the difference in spacing between the atoms in two different regions, and that difference was just 2.3 picometers. Let that number sink in for a second. A picometer, that's 1/trillionth of a meter. To put that in perspective, if a single atom was the size of a giant football stadium, a picometer would be about the width of one of your hairs.
And this technique just measured a change on that scale from that messy real-world picture. It's just absolutely mind-boggling.
So what's the picometer payoff? What does having this almost unbelievable new level of precision actually unlock for science? And for you and me?
Well, it means we can now look at the complex layers in our most advanced electronics with a precision we've never had before. It means we can really start to engineer brand new materials, literally one atom at a time. We can finally understand why materials fail at their most fundamental level, and maybe figure out how to stop them from failing. This atomic ruler, it really is a game changer.
And that leaves us with this one big, exciting thought. For almost all of human history, the atomic world was completely invisible. It was something we could only guess about. Now, we can not only see it, but we can measure it with picometer precision. So the question isn't if we can see the building blocks of our world anymore. The real question is, now that we can measure them perfectly, what are we going to build?